Welcome to The Explainer, where today we are diving into one of the most revolutionary fields in all of medicine, immunology. Really think about that question. It sounds like something straight out of science fiction, doesn't it? But it's not. This is the incredible, very real promise of immunotherapy. The whole idea is to harness the immense power of our own immune system, not to use some foreign drug, but to teach, to boost, and even to re-engineer our body's own defenses to do the job for us. All right, so here's a quick look at where we're headed today. We're going to start with the dual nature of our immune system, then we'll look at how we can either tame it or train it, and finally, we'll get into the really futuristic stuff like precision weapons and living drugs. Let's get into it. Okay, first up, the body's two-sided guardian. So here's the thing you absolutely have to understand about your immune system. It's basically a powerful guard dog. On one hand, it's your ultimate protector against invaders like viruses and even cancer. But if it gets confused or overexcited, it can turn on you. This is what happens in autoimmune diseases or crazy allergies. The entire art of immunotherapy is learning how to control this incredibly powerful double-edged sword. So, what do you do when that guard dog is out of control? Well, the first tool in our kit is all about taming the beast. We're talking about the science of immunosuppression, which is really just a fancy way of saying we need to dial the immune system down when it's doing more harm than good. And the classic old-school tool for this job, corticosteroids. You've almost certainly come across these. They're basically synthetic versions of our body's own stress hormone, cortisol, and they are absolute powerhouses for shutting down inflammation. We use them for pretty much everything, from a nasty poison ivy rash to managing serious chronic diseases. But how do they actually work? This is where it gets really fascinating. Because they're a type of steroid, they can just glide right through a cell's outer wall. Inside, they hook up with a specific receptor that's normally kept on a tight leash by an inhibitor protein called HSP90. The steroid kicks HSP90 off, and this new power couple marches straight into the cell's command center, the nucleus. And get this, it then acts as a transcription factor, literally rewriting operating instructions for up to 1% of your entire genome to issue a system-wide command to just cool it. But, using a sledgehammer comes at a cost. Corticosteroids are powerful, but they are not subtle at all. They pretty much carpet bomb your entire immune system, which leaves you dangerously open to infections. So, scientists started asking a critical question. Can we be more like a sniper and less like a sledgehammer? That quest for precision led them directly to the generals of our immune army, the T cells. And this is where we get some really clever drugs like cyclosporin A and tacrolimus. These are absolutely crucial for making organ transplants successful. Their strategy is to go after a single key protein inside the T cell called calcineurin. By blocking calcineurin, they stop the production of a critical growth signal called interleukin-2, or IL-2. You can think of IL-2 as the go-go-go order for T cells. These drugs just jam that signal, so the T cell army never even gets the command to mobilize. Okay, so we've talked about putting the brakes on the immune system. But what about hitting the accelerator? How do we ramp things up to fight off threats? Well, that's a strategy called immunoaugmentation, and you are definitely familiar with its most famous and successful application in all of history, vaccination. The idea of training our immune system is ancient. People noticed it all the way back in 430 BC, watching plague survivors. But it was pioneers like Edward Jenner and Louis Pasteur who really turned this observation into a science. And their work led to, one of the greatest achievements in all of human history, completely wiping the disease smallpox off the face of the earth. Just incredible. And today, our vaccine toolkit is just mind-bogglingly sophisticated. We can use the old-school methods, like a completely killed pathogen, or we can use a live but severely weakened one, which gives a much stronger, longer-lasting immune response. But now we can get way more specific. Subunit vaccines use just a tiny piece of the enemy, like a spike protein. RNA vaccines are even crazier. They just hand your cells the instruction manual to build that piece themselves. And recombinant vectors? They use a harmless Trojan horse virus to sneak those instructions in. So many clever ways to train our immune troops. Right. So vaccines are great for training your body to make its own weapons. But what if we could just skip that step? What if we could mass produce the immune system's most precise, heat-seeking missiles, antibodies, and use them directly as a drug? Well, that is exactly what a monoclonal antibody is. The mono part means one. We're talking about millions of perfect, identical clones of a single master antibody. Each and every one is engineered to recognize and lock onto one and only one specific target. It's the very definition of a precision weapon. And the way we make them is just pure genius. Seriously, scientists take the specific B cell that makes the antibody they want. The problem is, normal B cells don't live forever, so they fuse it with an immortal cancer cell called a myeloma cell. The result is a hybridoma, a hybrid cell that has the B cell's talent for making the perfect antibody and the cancer cell's superpower of living and dividing forever. You've literally created an immortal antibody factory. So, once you have this army of antibody clones, how do they actually fight cancer? Well, they have a few different tricks up their sleeves. First, they can just swarm a cancer cell and act like bright red flags, basically screaming, "Hey, kill this one," to other immune cells, like natural killer cells. That process is called ADCC. Or they can trigger something called the complement system. Think of it as a protein demolition crew that literally punches holes in the cancer cell. And maybe the coolest strategy of all, we can attach a toxin directly to the antibody, turning it into a guided missile that delivers a deadly payload only to the cancer cell. Now, this next part is truly one of the biggest game changers in modern cancer therapy. Some of the most powerful antibody drugs don't attack the cancer at all. Instead, they attack the cancer's defenses. See, cancer is sneaky. It can put up a protein shield called PD-L1. When a T cell's PD-1 receptor locks onto this shield, the T cell gets a signal to stand down, the brakes are slammed on. What these brilliant checkpoint inhibitor antibodies do is just get in the way. They physically block that connection. They take the brakes off the T cell, and suddenly our own immune system is unleashed to do the job it was meant to do. Okay, we've gone from chemicals to proteins, but now we're moving to the absolute cutting edge. What happens when the medicine isn't a molecule at all, but a living, engineered cell? Welcome to the world of cell therapy. This is CAR T cell therapy, and it really is as futuristic as it sounds. We are talking about a true living drug. It's the ultimate in personalized medicine. We take your own T cells out of your body. We soup them up in a lab, turning them into cancer-hunting super soldiers, and then we put them back in, where they can hunt, kill, and multiply for months or even years. So how on earth does this work? Well, it's quite a journey. First, a patient's T cells are collected from their blood. Then, in a highly advanced lab, a disabled virus, often a lentivirus, is used like a tiny delivery drone to shuttle a brand new gene into those T cells. This gene is the blueprint for their new cancer-targeting weapon. Then, these newly engineered cells are grown into an army of millions before finally being infused back into the patient, ready to seek and destroy. The real magic is in that new weapon, the CAR, in CAR T, which stands for chimeric antigen receptor. And chimeric is the key word. It means it's made of two different things stitched together. The outside part is basically the targeting system ripped from an antibody, an scFv, which gives the T cell brand new eyes to see cancer. This is fused to the inside part, which is the T cell's own engine and kill switch, its activation machinery like the CD3 zeta chain. You're literally combining the precision vision of an antibody with the lethal power of a T cell. And of course, scientists are constantly upgrading these things. Think of it like models of a car. The first generation cars just had the basic kill signal. They worked, but they'd run out of gas quickly. So for the second generation, they added a turbocharger, a co-stimulatory signal like CD28 or 41BB, which made the T cells way more powerful and durable. Third generation cars have multiple turbochargers. And now we're building designer cars that can release their own support chemicals or navigate through the body better. It's truly a new era of cellular engineering. So let's just take a breath and look at the journey we've just taken. We went from using a sledgehammer like corticosteroids to becoming trainers with vaccines, to deploying antibody-guided missiles, and finally to programming our own living cells to be the medicine. The level of control we are starting to have over our body's most powerful defense system is simply astonishing. The real takeaway here is that for the first time, we are truly learning to speak the language of our own immune system. And as we get more fluent, the potential to direct this incredible power against humanity's biggest health challenges feels almost limitless. It really leaves us with one incredibly exciting question for the future.